Hey you guys, welcome to the Eat Sleep Raid Repeat Guide to Tyrant Velhari in the Hellfire Citadel. This is Gorgeous, and I'm going to be talking you through this encounter. This is a 3-phase fight. Each phase gives you a different debuff, and a different ad will spawn. But the first thing I'm going to talk about is the mechanics that happen throughout the entire encounter, and then I'm going to break it down into each phase. Alright, so she does 3 abilities throughout the entire fight. One of them is the Edict of Condemnation. This is a big hammer that pulsates down. We had our players run to the center of the room so that they could hit the most players. It's split among them. It does about 70,000 damage, and the ring gets smaller as it gets closer to the floor. So you want to make sure that about half your raid is soaking this, trying to share this damage. Next ability I'm going to talk about really fast is called Seal of Decay. This is more of a tanking one, and she does this throughout the whole fight, like I said. So what happens is her melee attacks have a chance to put the Seal of Decay on the tanks, and it reduces healing done by them by 10%. So the tanks just want to swap when they get about 2 to 3 stacks, and healers need to be paying attention to this. If they get too many stacks, that they need to be spamming heals like crazy so that they don't die. Alright, the next thing I'm going to spend some time talking about is called Touch of Harm. This is a healing shield. Basically, she puts it on one person, and in order to get this absorbed shield off, you have to heal this person about 1,500,000 healing. So I just was spamming my long casting, low mana costing heal, and I tried a couple different things to handle this mechanic as a healer. I tried assigning one person that's all they did was clear the Touch of Harm. I tried to just ignore it, and because you can dispel it once somebody gets low, and it goes automatically on a person that has the highest health. So what I ended up doing that worked for us is I had 2 people in their spare time. They were assigned to just casting. I did 2 Resto Shamans casting their low costing mana heal on it. And that eventually got rid of it. And then I personally would watch to see if that person got low, and I would dispel it, and it would go on somebody who was high. You can see on my voodoo, it's that person with the discoloration, the purple on there. There are certain moments where I found it was better to time my dispel, because as it's moving from one person to another, there's a second where it's on nobody. It's like it's choosing somebody. So like when an Edict of Condemnation was coming down, no matter who it was on, I would dispel it and then do a chain heal real fast. Or if we were transitioning, or that moment where in phase 2 where everybody's health's kind of low, I would dispel it on somebody. Or if I knew we were going to stand in something, I would dispel it real fast so that I could just heal everybody really quick. It was really, I used that aspect of it more than just trying to get rid of it. The dispelling strategy of it is something that may take a little bit of time to learn, but I do suggest that you assign one person to kind of watch the dispelling of it so that you can just bounce it off somebody, because it automatically chooses the next person whoever's the highest HP in your raid, it will choose. So it's kind of like, oh, this person's going to get hit by something, I'm going to dispel them. Oh, they got this, I'm going to dispel it and put it on that person. It's not as difficult as I thought it was going to be. Alright, so phase 1, there's a bunch of things going on, but the first thing I want to talk about is each phase she gives you an aura. Phase 1 is the aura of oppression, and while you are moving in this phase, you are going to take damage. As time goes on, that damage increases. And I made, of course, a little chart to help really show people what this aura does. So I want you to take a look at this chart, and you can see initially it only does 14,000 damage, and as 5 seconds go on, it goes up by 10%. And if you really think about it, every time you move doing 20,000 damage, that's not that bad. I mean, by 25 seconds, it's only 23,000. Well, I continued to do the math, and it actually gets pretty bad. By a minute in, every single time you move, you're doing almost 50,000 damage, and by a minute and a half, it's 82,000 damage every time you move, and by 2 minutes, you should be transitioning. As you can see, as this goes on, that's a lot of damage that can happen. So while this phase is going on, there's a bunch of other stuff that, of course, makes you move. First thing I'm going to talk about is called Annihilating Strike. She picks somebody in the raid, shoots a big fire beam at them, flamethrower style. If they get hit, this little ring spawns around them, and then this big pillar of fire is going to shoot out of them. So they have to move out of it. What I did is I just had all my raiders. I wanted only one person to get hit with Annihilating Strike, and I wanted them to move out of it. If they were not chosen, I'd rather them move than get hit with that big burst of Annihilating Strike. Next thing is Infernal Tempest. She's going to pick everybody in the raid and spawn those little rings around them and then shoot this fire pillar out. So again, she's trying to force you to move in this oppression phase. And I'm going to slow it down, but I wanted you to see it real time. The whole idea is to move as least as possible, right? So you want to let it tick 2 times and then step to the side and then 2 times and then step to the side. At 2 minutes, she does line up 2 abilities. The big purple hammer comes down and an Infernal Tempest. That is why you want to push her over to 70% before that 2 minutes up. It's kind of a DPS gear check. In this phase, there's an ad that comes out. You just want to cleave it down. It's not really a big priority. Ours was still up when we transitioned into phase 2, and then we would just kill the ad really fast when we were in phase 2. At 70%, phase 1's over. You're going into phase 2. Everybody's going to run to what is our red marker and stack there and finish DPSing the ad. The first thing I'm going to talk about is the aura. The aura of oppression's done, and now she has the aura of contempt. And what this does is basically everybody in your raid's max HP is going to be lowered to 80% automatically. And as time goes on, it gets lower and lower. And of course, I made a chart to explain this. So initially, everybody's at 80%. Every 13 seconds, it goes down 5%. So after 5 ticks of this, or 65 seconds, about a minute in, everybody's health is lowered to 55%. I believe when we finished the phase at 40%, everybody was at a max of about 30% health. But I know what you're thinking. Why is everybody stacked on red? Well, there's this ability called Font of Corruption, and what we did is we had everybody who was not infected with Font of Corruption on red. And if you got Font of Corruption, you then danced over to orange. The whole point being is the Font of Corruption is this thing she puts on people, and they're going to do little splash damage. But they don't do splash damage to other people who have Font of Corruption. So if you get Font of Corruption, we have everybody stack on orange so we can AoE heal them down easier. The problem with Font of Corruption is it only lasts 50 seconds. So if you're one of the first couple people chosen, you need to pay attention to your debuffs. If you have Font of Corruption, you're on orange. If it goes off and you're still on orange, the other people with Font of Corruption are going to hit you and kill you. So you're on orange, Font of Corruption, your Font of Corruption wears off, you go back to red, and you're just transitioning. One thing that I did realize is that as our raid's HP got lower and lower, like when we started to get around like 40% max health, that first, she throws Font of Corruption on people on red. I had to throw down my Spirit Link totem to make sure that that first tick of Font of Corruption, when the person realizes, oh crap, I have Font of Corruption, I need to go to orange, that first tick was shared among everybody because it was killing people. One thing I forgot to mention is the second that you hit the red marker, you do want to lust, because there's an ad that comes out that you will need to interrupt, because this ad is going to try and heal the Tyrant. I made sure that my warrior was getting a lot of these interrupts to boost his DPS. You want to push this phase as fast as you can, because like I said, you're kind of on a time crunch. Your HP is going to be getting lower and lower and lower. So we focused on the Tyrant, interrupting the ad, and then when we transitioned into phase 3 is when we just burst down that ad and killed it really fast. I do want to spend some time talking about the use of healing cooldowns in this phase. Basically, when the big purple hammer is coming down is when you want to use all of your mitigation cooldowns, such as your links, your barriers, your diva auras, your rallying cries, because throwing things down like your healing tide totem, or your hymns, or your tranks, yeah, that will help, obviously, but if you really think about it, your HP is not that high, so you need to be conscious of using those properly. At 40%, phase 2 is over, phase 3 started. We had everybody run immediately to purple because now all that Font of Corruption immediately stops and goes away. We all want to stay stacked as possible. First thing I'm going to talk about is the new aura, and I have a chart, again, to help explain. Aura of Malice, increased damage done, increased damage received. As you can see, every 5 seconds it goes up by 10%, so 30 seconds since the beginning of phase 3, you should be increased your damage by 70%, which is why you don't want to wait till phase 3 to lust. The important thing to remember is that you are also increasing the damage you take, so you want to stay stacked, and this is the reason why. There's this thing she drops on a DPS called Defiled Grounds. It's this little cracked in the ground that you need to get out of as soon as possible. At the beginning of the fight, it doesn't really do that much damage, but as you can see, 30 seconds in, you have an increase of damage received by 80%, so you really want to get out of that as soon as possible. She's also going to do this knockback. You want to make sure you put your back to the wall because you don't want to be getting spread out far into the middle of the room. I found in my attempts, staying with the tank was the top priority. As you can see, the edict does come down, you do need to pop your Spirit Link totems and anything you can to help mitigate this damage. Phase 3 is way easier than Phase 2, so this is just basically a burn. As you can see, our damage is going up and up and up, and there is an ad that comes out that you do need to immediately turn to and kill as fast as possible. Unlike Phase 2 and Phase 1, you want to kill this ad the first thing and then get back on the boss. This ad is going to reduce damage done to the Tyrant by 90%, so you want to make sure you do burn it as fast as possible. Thank you so much for watching this guide. This is Gorgeous, and I hope you have fun with the fight.